I'm just checking to see if we have anybody attending outside.
I don't see anybody.
I don't see any, but we've waited a minute here, so we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 City of Bremerton Public Works Committee meeting. First item is not the election of the committee chair and vice chair. It is actually to approve the Public Works Committee meeting minutes of November 15th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes as written.
Yeah, there we go.
The November 2022 minutes as written.
Yeah, that's great. Michael, do you care to second, or you can abstain, your choice? Michael, good now. Actually, I don't see him there. He wasn't there on the committee. So I'm going to go ahead and say second. Any objections? Seeing none, we'll move on to the order of business. Okay, hey, now we're going to go to the election of the 2023 Public Works Committee chair and vice chair. Do we have any nominations for chair? Don't all jump up and shout out and whatnot. Anybody want to do it?
I would like to do it. I will
Okay.
nominate Anna Mockler for chair.
So actually, no, you're not. I will nominate you, Anna, for chair. Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Eric.
You're welcome. Any other nominations? Okay, so by default, Anna, congratulations. Not by default, you earned it. Congratulations, you are now the chair of the PWC. And I'm going to let you take over the meeting and call for the vice chair nominations.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I'm really happy, but I'm going to be better now. I would like to open the nominations for vice chair of the Public Works Committee for 2023. Any nominations?
You want to do it, Michael? Okay, I'll go ahead and do it.
I'm willing
Seeing
to.
none, I nominate Eric Younger for vice chair.
You can see how competitive this group is.
It's really competitive. Yeah, I get that. Does anyone have any objections to Mr. Eric Younger, Councilman Extraordinaire, as vice chair of the Public Works Committee? Okay.
All right.
Then let us carry on sailing through the agenda, and congratulations to everyone.
All right.
Okay, so first order of business is the 2021-23 Stormwater Capacity Grants Amendment. Take it away, Mr. Berthune.
Good evening, Council. So right now we have a stormwater capacity grant from the Department of Ecology that is set to expire on March 31st of 2023 for $70,000. Ecology has acquired another $62,500 they wish to provide to us, and they want to extend the grant end date to June 30th of 2023, so that we have time to actually utilize the funds. Ecology will be sending the amendment shortly. It should be here this week. So we plan on bringing that through council through the normal process to get it accepted. Hopefully it goes without any issues. And that's pretty much it. We use the capacity grant for supplies, materials, training staff. We can buy equipment with it as long as it's stormwater related. So it's a really good funding source to help offset the cost for permit compliance.
I know council is going to ask, do you have a map of where these projects are, or is it just general capacity for the continuing determinations?
It's general capacity money. It's not specific. Actually, we can't use the money for construction or even design without following through with specific requirements. So Ecology doesn't allow us to use the money for that.
Okay, and they're giving you 62K more?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Department of Ecology.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, as chair, am I not supposed to, isn't it correct that the chair like comments last? And I just violated that?
That's usually the case, but you know, you're kind of a rookie, so we'll give you a pass.
I am a rookie, but I promise you that unless I have to omit an exclamation of glee, I will not go first again. Does anyone have any comments on this item of capacity increase and grant acceptance?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Berthum, and congratulations.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Moving on to item number 3, the Anderson Creek Dam Removal Contract. Mr. Gunnar Fredrickson, please take it away.
Yeah, good evening, council. What we have here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. As you know, we recently received from Public Works Trust Board a grant to remove the dams, and this is the consulting contract to help us put together a PS&E package. And in case you are interested, where we're at, hopefully you can see the screen. So this project will be building on the work that DOT did down here at SR 16, replacing the culverts. We have these 2 decrepit old abandoned dams up here that were built in the 20s, haven't used them from the 60s, as well as being a total fish blockage and passage issue. They're also an attractive nuisance, and we've recently had to fence them to keep people off of them. The dam that's on the East Fork is just over 15 feet tall. So it is with no railing or fencing or anything like that. We're currently negotiating. We put out a request for proposals to 5 firms. From the 5 firms, we received 3 proposals. And of the 3, we chose Osborne Consulting Incorporated. And you should be seeing that contract here in the next few weeks. Any questions?
Would anyone care to comment? Vice President Younger.
Yeah. So I don't mind if it's just informal for this, but it's your choice. Just Eric is fine.
Okay.
Hey, Gunnar, a couple of quick questions. So is this required through ecology or some agency, or are we doing this on our own?
We were going to be required to do it, but we actually were able to offset. This is mitigation for the Schley Canyon culvert repairs.
Right. That was gonna be my next question. I'd like to make sure we get some kind of credit since we're doing this, even though arguably it's the right thing. We're banking it or whatever. We're doing this and we're getting credit for doing some kind of mitigation. So that was my question.
And yep, and that's the MOA that we signed with Fish and Wildlife here just about 8 months ago.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, I still think this is a great swap and that you guys are truly ingenious to have pulled it out of the hat. Well done. And just to echo what Eric said, yeah, when you bring this up, just mention again that, you guys are ingenious and this was a really good deal. Congratulations. I really look forward to the video of the demo.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And I'll do a little bit of a PowerPoint for council. I'll put together just a couple bullets and along with that screen showing the location so everybody knows what we've got going on.
It would be great to do Photoshop and just show it blowing up, but I'm sure that would be wrong. Thank you very much, Gunnar. Moving on to contract for construction management services for the Washington and 11th Roundabout project. Nikotai, please go on.
All right, thank you, council, and good evening. I'm going to share my screen as well. Wanted to get this on the radar. We're going to have a construction management contract for the Washington 11th project on the docket for council in February, March. Thought I'd have quick opportunity to kind of go through and just a brief update on the project as a refresher. So this is a complete reconstruction of 11th from Pacific down to the west end of the Burnett Bridge, shown in orange there. This is a project focused on multimodal improvements, so bicycle vehicle capacity, pedestrian improvements. Also wanted to point out that we are going to be improving a section of what we're calling the Lower Washington. I know we're in discussions with some of the residents there for a potential renaming. We are at a kind of a critical milestone on the project. We're moving from the design phase to the construction phase. We anticipate construction advertisement to occur in the coming months. Design is completed. Just a reminder that this project has several external revenue sources. So we've got federal funding through PSRC, and then we also have state funding through TIB. You know, this project does have about 3/4 funding coming from state and federal sources. And we have just under $1 million in local ARPA funding as well. Just a little caveat on the funding. The funding has different requirements. So just keep in mind that when we're talking about eligible and non-eligible costs, there are some expenses for the project, such as the Lower Washington segment, that aren't eligible for the state and federal funding. The construction management services for this project, obviously, this is going to be a large-scale project. When you have a large-scale project and you have those external funding sources, we have to make sure that we're inspecting and documenting the project appropriately. So similar to the 11th and Perry project, we are going to be contracting construction management out. We have selected SCJ, which is the same firm that's helping us on the 11th and Perry project. What that equates to for this project is about 2.5 full-time personnel on the job. That's a full-time construction inspector, a full-time resident engineer, and a part-time document specialist. We're also going to have a third-party construction materials testing firm that will do all the on-site testing for our construction materials. And then we also wanted to include support for public outreach, just knowing that this project's going to impact a lot of commuters. The big takeaway here is the city, even with this construction management contract, the city remains in control of approving all of the critical path items. The benefit of the construction management services is, of course, to make sure that we are meeting the requirements, that we're not putting ourselves in a position that could cost time and money for the contract. As I mentioned, we have previously solicited proposals. We are working with WashDOT right now to get concurrence on this before we schedule this with council. It's about 3,500 hours of staff time that we anticipate under this contract. That would be a not to exceed amount. And again, this will be mainly reimbursable from the state and federal sources. And I will be happy to answer any questions on this contract.
Nick, could you stop sharing your screen?
I sure can.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this contract? Eric, Michael?
No, I'm good.
So SCJ is doing 11th and Perry and this one?
Correct.
Okay. How many bids did you receive on this? I know it was April, and I'm sorry that I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe both 11th and Perry and this project were solicited as one proposal, and the selection was made off of that proposal. Shane, you'll have to probably jump in. That was before I started with the city. I believe there were 3 firms that submitted.
Yeah, there are 3 firms that submitted proposals for this work. And since it's a contract for consultant services, we don't bid it out. We select on qualifications.
Okay. I would like to know more about that thing on contracts, but I'm not going to take up everybody's time with it right now. Just for how things work. Okay, then there being no questions, excellent. Moving on to item number 5, Oyster Bay. Beach sewer upgrades, ACI change order number 1700, or actually number 2. Bill Davis, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Public Works Committee. I wanted to talk about change order number 2 for this contract we have with ACI for the Oyster Bay Beach Sewer Upgrades Project. And I'll give you a little bit of update on that project. We issued substantial completion back in September for the project. So the project is essentially done, and we're doing some cleanup work in order to, there are some final items, but all the grinder pump systems are currently operational, and the service has been taken over by city staff. There were a couple of items that caused these additional costs. And I estimate the change order to be around $100,000, and we're still finalizing what those costs ought to be. And this will be presented to city council. It's going to require approval by city council, but because we're exceeding at this point, we're exceeding the mayor's authority to sign the change order. The 2 items of significance were differing site conditions. It was we didn't know what the condition was of the beach sewer at the time, and we were required to cut and cap all the laterals and drain the beach sewer. So there were additional costs associated with that. The second item had to do with the pumping capacity at the Oyster Bay Inn. We underestimated what the capacity, how many pumps we would actually need at the Oyster Bay Inn. We had what's called a duplex pump station designed and installed there with 2 pumps. And working with our consultant, based on some high flow and alarms that we'd received in October, we determined that we needed a second duplex pumping system there at the Oyster Bay Inn. So there's some other costs too, but those are the 2 primary items that are causing the contract to require an additional change order. So that's all I have.
Eric, Michael, do you have any questions or comments?
Whatever.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So, hey, Bill, this change order, it sounds like it's for services that are already performed. Is that correct?
We have not done the work at the Oyster Bay Inn yet, so that one has not been done. The work on the beach has been done, and we had to move on that because we were limited by the weather window, getting the work done before the winter. So a portion of that work is going to be covered by the change order.
Understood. I'll let Mr. Nucky address that via memo or whatever in case the state auditor looks at it, because it's supposed to have council. You know all the rules on that. So I'll let Tom address that and put it for the record or something. And then I guess actually put it in the packet for the change order too. Somehow address that. I think if it's over 25,000, no, we changed the rules though, didn't we? We changed the rules, $100,000. So I'll let you guys work that out, and you can refresh the committee maybe next time on what the new rules are, if that applies here or whatever. So, okay. And then the other question, you want to build on that, Ned?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you read our purchasing and our requirements, I think you're right. We should be bringing these things forward unless it's an emergency. So I'm not sure that the $100,000 threshold, that the increased mayor's approval authority really impacts the fact as to whether or not we owe somebody approving the expenditure before we do the work, right? So
you're right.
I think we owe you that.
Yeah, it's an existing contract.
Yeah. But we're working with the tides. We have a fish window. We have a weather window. They spent a lot more time on the sewer laterals than we thought they would need. In fact, we kind of went around and around as to whether they could even do it for a while. So that's why it got done ahead of time. But we do owe you that approval before typically.
Just to tag on to that, on some level, it was almost like an emergency response, or it was a response to avoid an emergency. I think that's part of it, probably a better way to put it. And the change order authority wasn't modified by council. It was actually the mayor's approval authority. That was really what I wanted to say.
It exceeds the $200,000 limit in the BMC because we already had a change order for $187,000 with this one. We're over $200,000. So we need council's approval for this. for this one.
Eric,
And then-
are you done?
Nope, other question, Bill. So I noticed that ACI was using a neighbor's home for staging for the last year or so up on Shorewood. And they've cleared all that out. Just out of curiosity, I never asked before, what kind of compensation did that neighbor get? I saw they built a fence. Did the city provide compensation to use their area, or was that between ACI and the homeowner?
You're talking about the one on Shorewood or the Kitsap Way?
Shorewood.
The city didn't compensate the contractor for that. That was between ACI and the property owner.
Okay, that's fine. All right, that's all I have, Alan.
Michael, you had some comments or questions? No? Okay. When was this action to prevent an emergency from happening? When did that take place?
The work on the beach, we had a window starting on August 15th, where we had to do the work on the beach. And as you get further and further into the fall, the tides get worse and worse. The tides end up being at night. So we had a very limited window to get down there and cut and disconnect 24 sewer laterals. On the beach, the sewer turned out, the lateral connections turned out to be different than what we had anticipated based on our plans, as well as the sewer main was kept filling back up with water. So it took a lot more time. The contractor thought they could do 4 a day. It was more like 1 or 2 a day. So it took a lot longer to get that done. And we were trying to avoid the sanitary sewer overflow. So we had Vector trucks parked up upland, vectoring out the hole to make sure that there was no sewage spill on the beach.
Thank you. So when did these actions to prevent the emergency from occurring take place?
From approximately mid-August to the end of September.
Mid-August to,
The end of September. It went slightly into early October, that first week of October.
yeah, I took off for Yom Kippur because, you're not allowed to work. Did I miss this coming to council?
No, you didn't. This is I'm talking about the change order now. So this is at this point, we're going over the contract amount. The city did not know that all this extra work would occur. So this was a differing site condition, and we had spent most of the money in the contract at this point, anticipating that we would complete the contract within our monies. But because of the situation, as well as this situation at the Oyster Bay Inn, we did not anticipate any of this money. And unfortunately, these came at the end of the contract where we'd spent most of the money.
When did the contract conclude?
I believe it was October 5th was the date of the issuance of the substantial completion.
So
Contract isn't complete yet, right, Bill? So typically you have substantial completion and then you work through all of the change orders and the final work.
Punch
and then you
list.
hit acceptance. So,
Yes.
yeah, so we haven't hit final acceptance yet, but once the city takes over the systems and we start operating them, then we issue substantial completion, which is what Bill has issued so far.
okay,
We didn't discover the issue with the Oyster Bay Inn pumps till early October. And that was after substantial.
okay. Okay, somebody correct me if I'm out of line here, but wouldn't it have been useful for council to have known that so they could have been getting ready for this thing that you're going to be bringing to council, asking for an extra $100,000? I'm truly asking, I'm not.
We didn't know what the final cost would be. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
I see.
Prepare the council for.
Okay, Bill, you're cutting out a bit.
Oh,
But
okay.
Fortunately, you're so clear that I can fill in most of it. I hope everybody else can also hear. And again, I'm really asking, like, since of course, in an ideal world, there would be as-built of everything. They'd be perfectly clear and they would not have faded and they'd be really easily accessible. But since that perfect world is not happening, Have you gotten together with other members of your team to think about how, like, what could have been done to prevent the overrun from happening? So that, I mean, just because it's good to know what the job is before you go in. Of course, that's not always possible. But did you find any places where you could have looked at that more close, you know, where you could have found information if you dug in unexpected places, for example? Am I being snarky? Because I don't mean
No,
to.
no, I don't think
Julia.
so. That's a
Yeah.
fair question. With the beach sewer, I don't think so. That the beach sewer is extremely difficult to access and had not been maintained regularly for years, just because it's so difficult to access. So going up and just digging up that main and figuring out what was there was very challenging. And I think we anticipated that we would discover that information as we went along. I think with the Oyster Bay Inn, I think that probably could have been resolved during the design. I think there were some assumptions that were made that could have been thought through better.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just grinning because like that's such a professional way to look at it. Thank you. Ned, yes?
I was just gonna say, I think we did discover some old as-built. One of the problems was the type of pipe the laterals were constructed with. It's asbestos cement, which is transite pipe, which has a whole different level of care when you work with it. And we thought it was cast iron, and we learned when they exposed it, and then with a further record search with some old field books, that there was some information that said that there were some AC pipe on the beach, but that didn't make it easier to find a capping method. So it changed the whole detail and all of that. So there was a little bit of information that if we would have dug a little harder, we could have found. But you know, there wasn't a lot. It wasn't obvious that was the case. So.
Well, it's hard to think of a worse material to come across unexpectedly than
In a beach.
asbestos cement.
Yep.
Radioactive asbestos cement, that would be worse. Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any further comments or questions on this? Yeah, Eric, please go ahead.
So we don't need to get into any more details on this, in my opinion. Sounds like there's a question of authorizing work and then maybe not doing an accounting until on or about now. And all I ask is that it's explained in a memo when it comes before the council during study session. That's it. That's all.
See, that's what years of experience will let you be able to say. Thank you. A memo sounds like a great plan. Thank you, Eric. Okay, moving right along to the Chris Mottner events, number 6, vehicle and equipment purchases 22, 23, 2024. Please go ahead, Mr. Mottner. Chris?
Okay, so I'm here to just information only to discuss the ongoing issues we are still having with new vehicle and equipment purchasing as previously approved by council for those year model units. You can see I provided an order summary list showing that in 2022 there's 7 of 15 that we're still having trouble procuring. And in 2023, there's 17 of the 26. And then for the 2024, there's 10 of the 14 that were previously approved by council that were having issues placing orders, unable to place orders for the models and types that were approved by council at that time. So I just wanted to let the committee know and council that we're looking at other possible new vehicle purchasing opportunities. There are new vehicles available for purchase from off the lot dealerships, some available from the same state bid list, but they are not orders that we would have placed because they are limited quantities, not the preferred Ford brand, but the types are similar to the city standards. This type of purchase has been made before. These issues that we're having greatly affect the eventual costs of the new vehicles and equipment, even when available the normal state bid list procurement way. We expect a 10 to 15% cost increase in vehicle purchase prices above what was originally presented to council. With that, we are requesting committee members and council to allow staff to have the ability to order vehicles and equipment as they become available, and to know that the original council approved intent of make, model, and type may not be an option or even available to us as previously proposed. Know that we will do all we can to get to purchase new vehicles and equipment for best price and to keep within council approved type and budget. I will answer any questions you have on this, but this is an information only presentation.
Eric, please go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing there, Chris, is I kind of bet you a long time ago that you would not get one Ford Maverick hybrid. Was I correct?
Yes, you are correct in that, and I lost that bet. I kind of lost it some time ago now.
Yeah.
But-
So for the rest of the council, anybody that's interested, I think the ordering period was like 1 day, and then they closed it for 2023. 1 day. So that's interesting. So now, Chris, what you're telling me is we don't have to go off the state authorized vendor list, which apparently is Bud Clary, not a local dealer, to the best of my knowledge, since all the car dealers are in District 7. So my preference is that we go to Bremerton car dealers first, provided it's a competitive bid, let them know we're seeking out, but the preference tie goes to Bremerton. That's hopefully the administration's on the same page there, because I have heard car dealers saying, why are you not buying locally? And then I have to say, oh, well, we got the state bid list, blah, blah, blah. So now that you're telling me we don't have to, that's my request, as long as it meets the city's needs. And then the other thing, having recently purchased a new Toyota product, actually from a Bremerton car dealer, a Toyota, Heartland Toyota. We are no longer, I believe, except for certain models, doing premiums. You don't have to pay price premiums anymore. So I assume Chuck or you are going to be a shrewd negotiator, but the market conditions, I think everybody has recognized, have changed. And now the consumer or the purchaser seems to have a little more bargaining power. So I don't know about 10 to 15% over with the Bud Clary prices. I think we can be a little more aggressive and get a good deal for the city. But that's just my guidance on those two issues. And if you show me that you made an honest attempt, I'm sure you will, at getting the best value for the citizens, I'll be happy. Thank you.
Right. There are under state contract vehicles available from Bud Clary Chevrolet that we're looking into and making purchases as possible. So they are, fleet vehicles within the dealerships that way. I'm not sure if Bremerton has that capability or able to provide, but definitely we're looking everywhere. So that is something we will entertain. And I've worked with Melinda on figuring out how that can happen as well. So that is one other option available to us.
Michael, do you have any questions or comments? Hey, Chris, I
Okay.
have a couple of questions.
Yes.
I cannot tell, I'm sorry, I'm just not good enough from the pending vehicles and equipment replacement order summary, like when it says wastewater 0300 0315, I can't tell what exactly that is. Have you worked within Public Works, perhaps? I don't know if the asset manager is a good person for this. I truly don't know, but to determine which vehicles are absolutely necessary and which would be really, really good to have.
Right. So Chuck and I have reviewed all of these purchases. These all have met the criteria for replacement. And then we're looking, knowing that these are going to have to stay within the fleet for a longer period. We evaluated what it would take to keep these vehicles up and running in good condition for city use. So these vehicles and the vehicle numbers shown there correlate to presented budget approval for vehicle replacements for those corresponding years. So I have that summary of vehicle purchases that correlate back to these vehicle numbers. So in this case, the streets vehicles shown and the wastewater and some of these other ones are those Ford F-250 size trucks and larger that we had 8 or 9 wanted to be ordered, and they allotted us only one Ford brand. So that's the kind of the story with that. So I just kind of wanted to show how many out of the orders we're having difficulties procuring. So that's what that list is about.
Yeah, I that was a great memo, and I think you should frame it. Your order is in excess of your allocation of 1.
Right,
Um,
right.
okay, I completely agree with Eric's sentiment that, yeah, you know, let's buy local wherever we possibly can. And if we can't get Fords, let's see what we can get. I think it'd be really discouraging for wastewater people to have to be going out in platoons of electric bicycles, you know, carrying pipe. That would be just really hard. I don't see it, you know, I don't have any like technical advice or anything to give you except the 10 to 15% over an estimate that we made in October of last year. That seems like quite an extremely large increase. So when are you planning to bring this to council, Chris?
I was hoping to make sure we stay within the original intent of the council's approval for vehicle purchases and proceed with purchases within our limitations of going over the budgeted amount. So that's kind of what this was all about. Let you know that we're into these difficulties, and if anything comes up extremely higher than the approved budget by council, then that would be brought to council.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the information. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Then Chris, would you move on to your next item, which is, I've got 3 different screens open here, sorry. Department of Commerce grant contract, approval for the Bremerton Library HVAC systems project. Yay, please tell us more.
Yes, so this project was it's a desperately needed replacement and new equipment for the downtown Bremerton Library. And we had looked at this project as city funding, REIT funding possibilities, and then had a great opportunity to apply for, and we have received this Department of Commerce grant funding for this project. So we have that before you, a copy of the grant contract, and it has been reviewed by legal and approved to move forward with council approval. And I have that all here, and it was applied for and received, and have a copy of the notification letter from Department of Commerce, as well as receive the grant, which you have as well right now. So you can see in the supplied basic chronology of the downtown Bremerton Martin Luther King Library and HVAC project, you can see more detail there of the specific dates and estimated schedules moving forward. And I will answer any questions you may have on this item.
Eric, Michael, have you any questions? Okay, congratulations on receiving this grant.
Yep, it's a great opportunity.
Every aspect of this project has been wonderful. Okay, then let us move briskly on to item 8, contract modification agreement with At Work Commercial Enterprises LLC for landscape maintenance and services. Chris, please go ahead.
Okay, so this one is just a basic contract modification agreement number 2. At Work Commercial Enterprises is the city's landscape maintenance and services provider under city contract 6244. They maintain 24 city properties for many different departments and divisions since 2021. We have identified 3 city properties that require landscape maintenance and services. One is Fire Station 2, one is Fire Station 3, and the last location is landscape areas at the 606 Burwell Street location. You'll see attachments of the landscape locations within the packet. These are included within the contract modification agreement, as well as an 8.9 rate increase to the cost for all landscape services, and a general clarification to the agreement language, which was not clearly defined within the original scope of work and specification section of the contract. This proposed service cost increase meets the original intent of the base contract. The service cost increased amount will be split among other city departments and divisions accordingly, and I will answer any questions you have on this item.
Eric?
Yeah, so Chris, my question is, why are you calling out those 3 locations? Is that increase more than the CPI 8.9% for those 3 locations?
No, this is a kind of a twofold contract modification agreement. The first part is the add of 3 additional sites to the contract.
Okay,
And those are the 3 new sites, and then the 8.9 is an increase of service costs throughout the existing contract.
okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Michael, nothing? Okay. Hey, Chris, so this detail seems to really be an incentive for the city to do drought-proof landscaping for its facilities, because the irrigation, the difference between the irrigated sites, the 2 firehouses and 606 Burwell, which isn't that private property?
The city owns the landscape of the perimeter of the property there on Burwell.
Yeah, hold on. Thank you. It's really an enormous maintenance difference, and really all they're doing is turning it on, standing by to maintain it monthly, and turning it off. And it's a huge, huge difference. So it's a good argument for going for drought tolerant landscaping. I was looking at page 7 of this 10-page document here, 230117, number 8. And page 7 is a letter from Mr. John Song just saying, is there an opportunity to revise the contract to help us cope with the rising costs? So you're just saying, yes, there is.
Right. Actually, I asked him to provide that letter, but we were under close negotiations coming up with this cost increase. So this is a negotiated cost increase. He just worded it kind of strange in that memo or letter that he emailed to me that I provided as an attachment. So it isn't like he just asked for that out of the blue. He did research. We discussed it. We discussed CPI increases within the local area and his difficulties in wage and other insurance and other business related services that he needs for this business. So this was something that we had talked about way back in 2021, knowing that this was coming up and that we would entertain a negotiated cost increase as available to us through the contract documents.
So is this a 3-year contract? One of the 3-year contracts that Public Works has lately been doing?
This is a 5-year. We're into our 2nd year of the 5-year, I believe, on this one, and it can be increased for cost of living adjustments, and the CIP as defined here clearly defined here, which it wasn't within the original contract
Oh,
document.
so the original contract calls for consumer price index increases
It does, right? Yeah.
or increases tied to the CPI.
Right, yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't clear.
Got it.
Now we're trying to clear that up and have that available to us.
Okay, well, I would suggest you point it out to council. I'm simply recommending that. It's entirely up to you.
Sure.
Tom, you had your,
You actually covered it. I was just going to say that there was language, my understanding, there was language in the base contract that talked about increases for inflation, but the language wasn't very clear. And so legal's recommending that we modify this to clarify the language going forward for the rest of the term of the contract.
well, I
So
would imagine.
we're not really changing the intent of the base contract with that. We're just clarifying that CPI increases will occur annually.
Okay, well, whatever legal wants, legal gets.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. I did just have a larger comment, which is I can see how schlepping across Lake Sammamish and then across Seattle and then across the Sound to get here and do landscaping work would be much more expensive, especially in these times when areas are running, it often seems by whim. So this contract expires in another 3 years, is that correct, or 2?
3, I believe. I can get the exact date if
Yeah.
needed, but wanted to also let you know that they do local work as well. They do city of Port Orchard and some Kitsap County Public Works locations, stuff like that. So it isn't just come all the way over to do our locations. They are a broad company and broad service area.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no further questions. Eric, Michael? Yeah, Eric, please go ahead.
So mine is building on yours, Anna. And I'm assuming that people on this call are going to be here 3 years from now. And actually, this could apply to other contracts. I totally understand the bid process is you pick the lowest suitable bid that meets the requirements. Maybe it's for discussion for another meeting, but is there a way that we can aggressively market to our small businesses? I'm thinking there's a new one on 6th Street, a landscaping company where that car dealer used to be. And it's a Bellevue company. I don't care if they do have workers out here. And I don't mean to be protectionist, but when you spend money locally, it obviously has an effect on our economy more than the money goes to Bellevue. I think that everybody's clear on that. So I know the small works roster, all that stuff, there's some exemptions, but is there a way that we can aggressively let businesses like these local contractors know, hey, by the way, we have contracts available on certain things, and you may want to consider bidding. Do we aggressively put that out, or do we just post it on some site and only the big players know about these opportunities?
Chris, please go ahead.
Yes, this was advertised per city policy and procedures, and S&S Landscaping on 6th Street did put a bid in on it. So we did get many local bids, and just wanted to let you know that at Work Commercial, a lot of the workers that do our landscape area are local residents and workers from this area.
No worries. And maybe we need just not tonight, but maybe review what the city's policies and procedures are for advertising local to see if that needs to be tweaked. Again, I don't need to drag this on, but then also, Chris, I understand we got local workers potentially gaining a living off of this, but we would be better served if we had local workers and a local owner making money off of this contract and I'm not saying people in Bellevue are the enemy. I'm just saying buy local, stay local if possible. That's all.
Sure. Yes.
One thing, and I'll just touch on this briefly, one thing that council could do is what many smaller cities have done, which is for the bidding process to give like a 10 to even 15% preference to local firms, so that if a local firm comes in, let's say 10 to 15% higher than a large firm that can bid with volume, that they would still be awarded the contract.
Yes.
I'm not, I think that merits further discussion. I'm
Yeah.
open to that, but I think there's all kinds of problems with that, whether that's in accordance with state law, and if they can do it, whether local companies might take advantage of that, knowing they can get another 10%. So best intentions, but the devil's in the details. So I'd like to review that policy if we go down that road.
Every move forward involves a host of people who are figuring out how to game it. Okay, Chris, had you finished? Did anyone else have comments? Okay, moving rapidly along to the final. PSE owned streetlight LED conversion. Director Tom, could you please go ahead?
Yeah, so we've had we have three kinds of streetlights in the city. We have city-owned streetlights, about 1,000 of those. We got about 1,800 streetlights that are owned by PSE, and then we pay a monthly. They call it a tariff. It's a monthly fee for the PSE to operate and maintain the streetlights. And then there's some private streetlights on private streets. And we've converted all of our city-owned streetlights for some time now to LED. And we've been looking for a way to convert the PSE-owned streetlights to LED as well, because it's, you know, it's less drain on the power grid. It's a move in the right direction. But per the rules that are established, we have to pay for the cost of the conversion, which is about $250 per light, and then you end up paying a lower tariff rate. You pay the LED tariff rate, which is about $3 less. So on that basis, it would take, you know, about 7 years to recover your cost. And where we're at right now is PSE is only installing LED streetlights, and so when a high pressure sodium streetlight fails, PSE will replace it with an LED streetlight. So with a 7-year return on your investment, we didn't consider it cost effective to go out and programmatically convert our streetlights. Well, PSE recently initiated a program, as a rebate program, that cuts that conversion cost from about $250 per light down to about $140 per light. And so you end up with about a 4-year payback on a conversion. And so what we'd like to do is convert on a programmatic basis all of our PSE-owned streetlights to LED. And of the 1,800 lights, there's just shy of 1,600 that are still high pressure sodium. And the way the PSE would convert those is in small contracts. They call them phases. And each phase would be about 120 lights. And so the cost of the conversion of each phase would be about $1,700 after the rebate. And they would be able to do, they're thinking 4 phases per year. So it would take 3 years to convert all of our lights to LED. And then after all of the lights are converted, because you're paying $3 less per month for each street light, we would see an overall savings of just shy of $60,000 per year on the lower cost. And so we think it makes sense. We think it would be a good thing to move forward. The individual contracts wouldn't require council action because they're fairly small contracts, but for 2023, we would need a budget adjustment in order to move forward. And then at that time, we get direction from council, understanding from council that this is a program that they'd like us to move on. And so just want to advise you of that and see if you concur with the approach to programmatically quickly move forward to try to convert our streetlights from high pressure sodium to LED.
Okay. before we move on to questions or comments, towards the end of your presentation, Tom, you mentioned that PSE it would cost them $1,700 for some aspect of each phase. Is that a cost that we would be paying, or is it?
Yeah, it's the net cost. So what we would do is we would pay $256 for each street light that's converted. And we would do them in groups of about 120 per phase. And then they would reimburse us on the rebate basis. And then the net cost for each 120 lights that we would convert would be about $17,000.
$17,000.
Yeah, if I said 1,700, sorry, a lot of numbers. I wrote a little white paper that you should have, and that'll be, I cleaned up some of the language on it a little bit, and that'll be an attachment to, as a council summary to the agenda bill that goes forward for the budget adjustment. And it's got some more detail in it, but that's generally the program.
Okay, so it's $140 per light, 120 lights is $17,000.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Eric, you had comments, questions?
So 17,000, and you plan on doing how many batches in FY23?
For 23, it'd be four phases.
Okay.
So about just shy of 500 lights.
Yeah, about 68,000 net. So budget adjustment, I mean, that's not a really material amount, Tom, in
How much?
comparison to your overall budget. So do you have some type of ending balance, or what's the mechanics of that, what that would look like?
So I've got to talk to finance. To understand where the funding would come from. I think REIT is what we were looking at, but I need to confirm that with finance, and then that would be obviously part of the agenda bill that would go forward. So it's you end up with, like I said, almost $60,000 in savings after the third year once you've converted all the lights. So in broad numbers, you'd spend about $68,000 net per year, and you'd save, $18,000 per year, whatever it is. It's right at about a 4-year return on investment. Take us 3 years to convert all the lights.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Sounds like a good business decision. I'll look at it a little more closely when it gets in the packet. I am glad that we're not having the discussion on what's the terminology now?
Related color temperature. We already landed on that.
Thank you.
And we will make, it's 3,000, and I already talked to PSC about that. So we're going to make sure that we get warm lights. Yep.
All right.
I can text Kevin Gorman if we want some input. I think this is great. I've definitely had people ask why we have the old lights and stuff. So I think it's good. A question I just popped in my head is Eric was asking his question. What fund is going to eventually realize the savings?
Street fund.
Street
and
fund.
the street fund and general fund, essentially, right?
Okay.
We pay for the PSE owned streetlights. Last year, we paid $425,000. So with them all converted, it would be $60,000 less than that. And then one other thing, a couple other things about the LED lights that's kind of neat. You can, they're dimmable. And to be truthful, I don't know when we would ever dim them, because if you dim the streetlights, then you've got to be concerned about safety. But it's something that can be done with those. But also in talking to PSE, they anticipate, rates, we have rate increases every year, right? And the rate increases are projected to be less for the LED than they would be for the high pressure sodium. And so there's some future benefit there as well.
Do we have some poles that we own and maintain?
Yeah, we have city-owned lights, and we've got PSE. We've got PSE-owned lights, and we've got about 1,000 city-owned lights. And I can't remember when we converted all those, but it's been years and years, probably 4 or 5 years that those have all been converted to LED. And then but there's 1,800 that are PSE owned lights that we pay the O&M cost on a tariff basis.
That's all.
Eric, Michael, any further questions or comments? Thank you, Tom, for jumping right in there with that warmer temperature thing. Because that is something that drives many people nuts. I don't know if any of you have pulled out of Safeway after dark and been blinded by the security lights from the vacant lot on Wyckoff. Yeah. So it's, yeah, very pleasant. Really look forward to this. I'd also like to give a shout out to Charlie Michelle, who made a donation to the city, I think, for the initial, one of the initial tranches of these LEDs. So that's all. I think this is great. I'm way to go. Okay. We have reached the end of the agenda unless you guys would like to stick around for another 3 to 4 hours and go through every one of the capital projects.
Well, it's January, and
I know.
so we based on direction last year, what we were proposing to do is just identify where items had changed. So
Okay.
If you want to continue to follow that,
We do.
that process, like, okay.
We do. I would like to take a 3-minute break because I've been drinking tea for an hour. And I will be back in exactly 3 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, I have a couple little questions that aren't completely committee. Do you mind if I just ask them while you're?
No, please go right ahead. I'm timing myself. Go.
I met with some folks, one person actually today, and they just brought up some thoughts. Anyway, they were actually interested in helping raise money to patch potholes. And I don't know if there's ever been any kind of adopt a pothole program, and I don't know if just the cash is an issue. I don't think we want people out there patching the poles on themselves. Anyways, I will say that it's a pot shop, so it feels like there's some synergy there between potholes. Anyways, you don't have to answer that per se, but it's, I don't know if they want to do it in their area. Anyways, I thought it was an interesting concept.
I've got thoughts on that. We patch potholes. So if they report a pothole, we'll patch it. Yeah. I would hope that if we have a pothole that's recurring fast, frequently enough that we're out there, very regularly, then the crews are going to have to start looking at, more involved repair methods. And Dave Carter, I don't believe is here today, or I'd let him speak to that. But I mean, we will patch potholes. So just give them the Bremerton one.
I did. So that was something I did today. Connected them with that. So obviously Callow's my neighborhood, and there's some steam happening down there. I just wanted to throw this idea out as we look at redoing Quincy 4th Street for, I'll kind of back up again, Alana, since you just joined us. As we look at redoing 4th Street and even Manette for the new sort of sidewalkscapes and streetscapes, if there's any assets that could be moved down to Callow, I think of the planters that are here on 4th Street, benches, any of that kind of stuff, I think it would be great. And, I don't know what the plan is, and I know, I think I saw Katie on, hi Katie. There's, I'm at the Roxy right now, so I'm pointing. Across the street, there's sort of that kiosk, the 4-sided kiosk. Maybe that could have a second life down in the Callow neighborhood. I know obviously it's got a big footprint and it might be a bit, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out. They were saying how there's not really any trees on Callow. I don't know if there ever were, but so I just wanted to, and there might even be things right now sitting around a public works yard that might be able to be deployed down there. And I could certainly connect us with the Charleston group that's trying to make some of these changes.
What sort of things are they interested in, like benches and bike racks and,
I think I think any of that. And I think
Okay.
that if we follow this rediscover Charleston, start following that plan, you know, some of that might get redone. So it might be great to reuse some of these things, and we might even be able to get the community to repaint, you know, some things or stuff like that. So, you know, but yeah, there's not many benches, there's not many planters. We do have the hanging plants. We have gotten some bike racks installed down there. We're looking at the Overstreet banners. So it was just, you know, I looking for a solution until we get to the point where we've planned and are funding some other changes down there.
Waste not, want not.
Yeah, I see Katie's.
Had you finished, Michael?
Oh, if Katie's going to address that, yeah.
Yeah. Katie, please go ahead. Thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there are quite a few assets down on 4th Street that we've identified to salvage. So we could save and reuse them. There's trash cans, there are some nice benches. Many of those, the benches that are there were actually were dedicated or donated by the Rotary or by the Firefighters Union. So along with working with you know, Shane to make sure that they were placed appropriately on Callow, we would need to work with those folks as well to kind of rededicate them there. But I think it's a great idea.
I think along that line too is if that community wanted to rally together and buy a bench, you know, I think Manette did a water cooler and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. And the other thing is, since Katie, you spoke up, is how are we doing? I know I emailed you not that long ago about just, so again, if I switch my hats, right? So are we, you know, what's the percent of tearing up 4th Street this summer in front of the Roxy and things like that? Because it affects how we plan maybe some stuff going forward. So
Yeah, I totally understand that. And I really hope to have a more definitive answer by like the end of this month. We are still waiting on the NEPA permitting. That it is in for review. So now I'm just kind of trying to get some feedback on whether it'll have to go to a higher level of consultation or not. As far as the design team, we could be ready to go this summer for sure. But we need to know soon so that we can you know, make the final the push for it and get everybody ready. So it is, I mean, the next couple of weeks the decision really needs to be made. So I'm on pins and needles trying
Okay,
to find
so
out at this
great.
point.
So we'll look forward to knowing what that is.
Yeah, there will be a
All
big
right.
update on that.
Okay, now to rock and roll through the capital projects. And yeah, if anything comes up in our capital project that's not on this list, that's of the magnitude of the Oyster Bay, we would really like to know about it, please. Okay, so I believe we start with Chance Berthum, Kitsap Lake, algae control, et cetera, et cetera.
We'll make this very short. I have the contract. I'm working on developing the contract for this year, and we're looking at the same type of a sequence of applying FOSLOC in May. Harvesting will be done in August. And then we'll do a FOSLOC treatment after that. Pretty straightforward, same as last year, year before. That's
Okay.
it.
Eric, Michael, any questions, comments? Okay, so we're gonna go to what I'm calling the Gunnar Fredrickson Memorial process, in which when any of you has a slate of stuff to do, just rock right through it and say, no updates, here's the update, et cetera, et cetera. Is that okay by everybody? Yeah, okay. So moving right along to Gunnar Fredrickson, items 2 through 6 on stormwater. Please go ahead.
For item 2, Kitsap Lake Stormwater Treatment Retrofit, no real changes there. We're still just closing out the 90% design. Number 3, Ostrich Bay Fish Passage culverts, that would be Price and Brentwood roads. Both are now in substantial completion. We're finishing some punch list items. Our storms revealed some issues up on Price Road that we will be addressing this week, Thursday and Friday. But other than that, we'll be closing those projects out. We've got 2 new bridges. For Pine Basin Watershed, nothing new to report there. We're in a weather suspension, waiting for a couple of good weeks. Hopefully that will be coming up next week. Francis Drive Outfall project, that's coming up on your schedule for a contract award with Parametrics. And then Schley Canyon Wheaton Way culvert repair, we're still trying to figure out items and fleshing that out as far as our work window there is this summer. And we're hoping to be able to put something together and be able to get that going. But nothing really new there either. Any questions, please, for any of the projects?
Eric, Michael? Just real quick, Gunnar, I know ACI is using a chunk of Stephenson Creek. It's technically parkland for Stephenson Canyon as staging area for Pine Road. They're anticipating being done in May, according to the information we were given. Do you have a feel for if that's still achievable?
If you're talking about down at the inlet, they're actually going to wrap that up a lot sooner than that, and they'll be done. In fact, the inlet is pretty well done right now. The only thing left to do is Viking Fence needs to come in and do a cable rail fence around the top. Other than that, we're gonna get out of there, and then we'll just be up on Robin and Eagle.
Okay, but you feel like the project is still within, like the projected completion date is still achievable? Isn't
It
that great
is.
news? Okay,
Yeah. The only thing we may have is if we get the core permit for the marine outfall, we may try and change order in that work. But we'll keep you posted as that goes along with the negotiations with the Corps. And actually, it's NOAA Fisheries is the big one.
I'm very glad it's you and not I who is dealing with that. Thank you. Okay, so utilities, water, we begin with utility and forest land management, Mr. Walsh, a number of Bill Davises, and then round up with Olympus Neighborhood Park, Katie Ketterer. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just an update on the comp plan. So it was advertised on the 13th and sent out advertising the Kitsap Sun and then sent to contractors. And then we should have the proposals are due February 10th.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Yeah, Eric, please go ahead.
Hey, Sean, I don't know if you've been before the committee before. You're a new hire, right?
That's right. Yeah, I started in September. So first time talking to the Public Works Committee.
Okay, I just wanted to say welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was fun getting my first request for proposal done. So
Good to have you aboard.
Michael, do you have anything? Okay. Does this include, Sean, the urban forest or just the watershed forest?
This is just the watershed forest.
Okay, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Never mind. I was just going to say something goofy and I won't. Please go ahead, Bill, on items 2 through 5, pump stations and wells.
Okay, not much change with pump station 14. We're in the submittal review process for that project construction to start sometime in April. Well 9, we did get permits approved for that project, so we can actually start doing site improvements on the well 9 site. We're still working on the drilling contract. Well 7.
Cutting out, Bill.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure why. Well 7, there's been no change. Well 21, 22, no change. And Olympus Neighborhood Park exploration is something that's normally addressed by Cami, I believe.
Yeah, no good. The
That one's me.
That's Katie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll note a
Thank you, Bill.
small change on that Olympus Neighborhood Park exploration. in the past, we've had a budget to be determined on that one. But we did actually program some money for 2023 for that project, $80,000. So we have a concept right now and hope to deliver that project with city forces this year.
Eric, Michael, did you have any comments? So this would be in conjunction with Parks?
We are working with Parks to get their feedback on what might be appropriate for that area. Yes.
Are there any uses of that area that are prohibited? Like, could it be used for housing?
It is water utility. It belongs to the water utility, and the water utility has plans to continue to need that property. So those are the restrictions. It's further restricted in that Parks can't really contribute money or get grants for it because they don't actually own it. We have to kind of balance the use of water utility land and also the desire to put some park features there.
Okay, so it can't be used. It really needs to remain open space.
I think I'll let Tom take that one.
Yeah, so it's, actually, there's a reservoir. You go and walk around the grass. I mean, there's actually a reservoir out in that area. Selling off that property has never come up before. So I'd be really hesitant to really speak to that any more than that. I'm not really sure that we have any immediate plans to build something on that site. It seems like low-hanging fruit to be able to provide some park features in that area. It's been strongly requested by the neighbors, but selling off the area, in between the reservoir and the Olympus Drive facility has never.
No, I was not suggesting selling it in any way. I was just wondering what the land could be used for. So you're planning, it doesn't have to be open space, but the neighbors would like it to be open space. They're using it as open space right now. So like a more structured kind of open space. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just there were requests for some park features. And so we worked with Parks to see what amenities seem to fit best in the neighborhood. And so that's what we're trying to deliver this year.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving right along to thank you, Katie. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Sean Walsh, the new person. Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, so utilities, wastewater. Well, this is all Bill Davis all the time, from OB2 to OB1 down to Tracyton Beach Road sewer improvements. Please take it away, Mr. Davis.
Okay, OB2 to OB1, I provided an update on that previously. P6, the Puget Sound Industrial Center. Ned really knows more about this.
You're working on the Mason County on that.
Yeah, we've got a draft interlocal agreement that I need to finalize and send off to Mason County to start working on, the language for an interlocal that we can all sign off on. So we're working with them on that right now. So
okay.
That's that one.
Well, we'll all look forward to it, and well done. Working on MOA is always fun. Eric, Michael, have you any comments so far? Okay, please go ahead, Bill.
Decommission beach sewer, Manette, we're continuing to work through cultural resources issues with that particular project, and the nutrient channel permit. Not much has changed there. I know that we're doing some testing at the treatment plant. We're trying to get some baseline information about our treatment plant processes and working with our consultant. 2023 sewer.
Bill. So we have an annual report that's due for that, like in March, right? And we've got a consultant that's working on that, putting that together for our last year of performance. So that's our next thing to really complete.
Our next significant milestone.
Right, for the permit, yep.
2023 sewer rehabilitation, that's the plans are 95% complete, and so we intend to put that out to bid hopefully by the end of January. That's for construction, that's for work this summer. And then Tracy and Beach Sewer Road improvements, we selected a consultant, Kennedy Jenks, that we're currently negotiating a scope with.
Eric, Michael, do you have any questions? Comments?
I have a comment. This is Dan.
Sure.
So just so everybody knows, Bill is a one-man show for the water and wastewater utility and engineering. We had somebody who left the city to go to a different job. And so we've got the project manager position that was open or approved last year by council that we have out on the street right now. And we have a CE3 in engineering position that we need to fill. So all of these contracts right now, the only person that's really keeping track of them and trying to deliver them is Bill. So we're trying to figure out a plan. Some things might delay. He's one guy who can only do so much. So we're trying to figure out what we can deliver and how we deliver. It might include some more outsourcing of construction management, things like that. We've asked for some support from some of our other staff that might be able to pick up some slack until we hire somebody. So we have a capacity issue right now in engineering. So.
Wow, I had no idea. Did everyone else know about this and only I am ignorant? Darn, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Okay.
since none of us is any good at cloning Bill, I look forward and I'm full of hope that we'll get a second person. This would be like a wastewater person who left?
Yeah, it was our other utility engineer that worked on water and wastewater. So we've got 2 positions that are open that we're trying to fill, but that doesn't always happen quickly. So we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we're trying to figure out what we can deliver with the capacity that we have. So
yeah. Eric, Michael, I've already asked you, do you have any questions, comments? Just really quickly, do you have a feeling? I know once you go in with cultural resources, you could be there for a very, very long time on the Manette Beach sewer. But do you have any feeling for when that might clear up? And you might be able to move forward on the project?
I'd have to look at that schedule to refresh, but I do know that our archaeologist, Willamette, is very aggressive, and they've already put together a new inadvertent discovery plan, and so that we can start doing potholing and excavation on geotechnical investigation on private properties. So we are moving ahead with that, and there seems to be a lot of goodwill currently between the Suquamish tribe and DAHP in the city. So,
and ecology.
Excellent. What a truly wonderful and happy state of affairs. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Sorry to hear about this. Thank you, Bill. Again. Okay, so moving forward to streets. Gunnar, Vicky, Katie, Shane, Nick. Okay, you guys can see the whole thing. I'm just gonna let you guys jump in and out, and if you want to just ask if there are questions and comments when you come to a conclusion of your items, that would be great. Please go ahead. First one is Gunnar Fredrickson.
Yep, nothing to report. We're still closeout. It's dragging a little bit because it is a Fed aid project and we've got some audits and some stuff going on, but I'm hoping to get it off the list here pretty quick.
Anybody? Okay, next.
Good evening, Public Works Committee. I'm going to give an update on 11th and Perry, which is currently in construction. The contractor's been working his way from 11th heading north towards 15th. We've got curb gutter sidewalk poured on the west side of Perry between 11th and 15th, and we're currently working on concrete pours on the east side. Once we finish with that concrete work and all of our underground work, we'll proceed to our next segment of work, which will be 15th to 17th on Perry. I think it's going really well. Does anyone have any questions for me about 11th and Perry?
Eric, Michael? The flood at Pups, Cups and Cones. Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
I was just gonna say that what is the window that's really gonna be disruptive to the kind of the business core down there, I guess, from sort of Perry down to the park?
So I'm gonna assume you're asking when will we be working on 11th? Is that, would that,
Yeah.
our plan is to start on 11th in May. And then we'll be there through the end of the project. We're doing all of Perry first, and then we'll do 11th. We wrote the contract to keep the contractor from working on both. You know, a lot of times you say, this is your project area, and a contractor can go in and open up and work wherever they want unless designated by a contract. And due to our public outreach and conversations with the MBA, we decided it would be better to try to make people happier, if you can, in construction by getting the contractor to finish Perry before they start on 11th. So hopefully, weather permitting, you know, we should be complete by about the second week in May, and that's when we plan to start on 11th.
Thanks.
And also, just to add a little bit to what Vicki is saying, she's had really good communications out with the residents out there, with her contractor and her traffic control specialist that's out there, as well as the MBA. And she just recently gave an update to the MBA last week on the status of the project, and has continued to work with them to provide updates. And I think they've asked you to attend some more meetings in the future on this as well, Vicki, correct?
Yes, they have. Yeah.
So we've been doing some good coordination just to make sure everybody's up to speed and can anticipate the work that we're doing, so we can take care of any issues and concerns ahead of time.
Great.
Michael, did you have more questions?
No, that was it. This is stuff that had brought up years ago, just about making sure we're doing everything, and so that especially if streets or sidewalks are closed, that it's, you know, we're doing everything we can to help small businesses, and you know, not just putting up a sign that says business is open. You know, so we have to like literally encourage, lure them in. I had cited Port Townsend, which I think when they did 2 blocks of Water Street, I think included $25,000 to assist businesses. They have more dense businesses, of course. And then their downtown, their sort of MBA for that area went out and got another $35,000 from a local bank to really, you know, make sure that they were, you know, mitigating anything they could through marketing and activities and stuff. So I just want to kind of remember, we've not always done a great job of that. So it's really great to hear, Vicki, that you've been attending those meetings and stuff. So thanks.
Just to say, we had a conversation, and it was on January 9th at the MBA there at the Manette Real Estate Office, that they are requesting funding to help with banners and some graphics for social media to let people know that the Manette businesses are open during construction. And so we're working with them to see what they're proposing, and if we can absorb any of those costs from the budget. I do agree that the real test will be when we get down there, but the plan is also to not, that we'll obviously have to temporarily close some of the sidewalks as we move along and we pour concrete and it cures, but the goal is not to close like a block at a time and just have it be closed indefinitely on the sidewalk. That's not the goal. We are going to accommodate their deliveries and their potential customers as much as we can. The contract was written as such. We're going to provide additional parking when we take some of the parking, because we're going to have to at least close one of the lanes while we're doing construction. So I'm confident that we can do a good job for them. So, but it's topmost on my mind when I'm out there. I go around, I try to talk to all the business owners I can talk to so they know who I am, and, you know, talk to me if you have problems or questions. And again, the real test is going to be when we get on to 11th.
If I could just say one last thing, you know, I would hope that doing sort of doing the businesses right isn't something that we have to absorb into a contract, and that we could plan it into future contracts. So anyways, even if it doesn't come out of the contract fund, even if it has to come out of, you know, if we're redoing a key area, maybe it comes out of general to support. So thanks.
Eric?
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. No? Okay, yeah, it's a vital area and it's a vocal area. So thank you very much for going to the meetings of the Manette Business Association. Just as one human to another, thank you. And I very much like the whole attitude and that you're talking about the way you and your crew are interacting with the people in the area. And I have to say, I'm getting feedback that says this is exactly what they feel is happening. I would like to briefly address the design amendments as a result of the flood at 11th and Perry, Pups, Cups and Cones there. Or the mild flood, the little
Yeah.
flood.
You know, so if everyone recalls, we had some snow, then we had some a little bit of an ice storm, and then a lot of rain. So during that period, we had to leave open some areas that we couldn't pave. And I'll tell you, as in construction, there's always problems. Construction doesn't go without problems. And the problem is that we have franchise utilities on those poles that I'm working with to get off the poles. And so we couldn't pave those areas, which mostly it was concrete. We couldn't put the concrete panels in for the sidewalk. So we had some area left open. We had attempted to get a local, or an asphalt company that was open, and we were going to temporarily pave. As we saw the storm and what was about to happen coming upon us, we weren't able to get any temporary paving down. And a couple of the upstream catch basins were overflowed. Everything from the east side went to the west side. I mean, like everything that could have happened possibly happened out there. And yes, there was a lot of debris in Pups, Cups and Cones. It was an additional cost, but I did ask the contractor, I said, this is our fault. We need to clean this up. So they went in, pressure washed it, cleaned it. We had them put a new small yard drain in and tie it into our catch basin there at the corner of 11th and Perry. It's been doing great since then. I look every time I go out. I talk with Sarah. I think we've addressed that. But yes, that was not a good thing.
Well, I'm not asking you about it to make you say, oh my gosh, we messed up. I guess I'm more asking you about it so that, you know, you could kind of brag on yourself there, because that's because that's what a great attitude, right? It's like, okay, this worked out poorly. It's our fault. Let's go fix it. I just think that's such a wonderful attitude, and that was really it. Not to jump on you, but to force you to brag about yourself.
Well, let me give the credit to the contractor. They did a really nice job out there for that. So I was really appreciative of what they did. And we're going to make sure we're going to do a little bit more at that corner to make sure nothing happens like that in the future. And again, getting hard surfaces down is going to be a great accomplishment out there.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on item 2 under streets? Then let's move on to the Warren Avenue Bridge. Please take it away, Vicki.
I'll say there's not a excuse me, not a lot new there. We are currently addressing a new, more aggressive plan to get us to the finish line. And I'm currently working with SCJ on a time frame and what that plan is. So I guess that's what I would say for now, unless anybody else has additional questions. We'll elaborate more as we get there.
Eric, Michael? Yeah, Eric, please go ahead.
Yeah, and I feel the need to address this carefully because so one of the main constituents in District 7 that has spoken out on this project is West Sound Cycling Club. And to date, I fully understood their questions, and I've relied on them for kind of I'm not an expert on bridge design, and they've done a lot of effort in trying to ensure that the citizens get the best possible outcome for the proposed project. So I think, Tom, you got the email. I don't know if Vicky did. I'd have to close this meeting and look at my emails, but all I asked, I'm not asking for special treatment, but it seems that representatives of West Sound Cycling Club have largely been the public interest for this project, and I could be wrong on that. And all I ask is let's address any questions or concerns, if it's not too onerous, ahead of time rather than later in my impression is that, no, I'm not going to lay blame. Let's just address things sooner rather than later if possible. So Tom, if as your employees, if you want to pass that email over to Vicky or whatever, let's just address their concerns in a timely manner if possible, and let Michael, myself, and Anna be CC'd on the response. And I'd like to stay out of it. Usually City Council, obviously we weigh in at the very end when we see all the proposals. So last year, and I'm not questioning what happened, but I'd like to stay out of it, but I want to make sure that they're heard as well. So that's what I'm asking. And I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying let's make an extra effort, and then hopefully we have a good project in the end. So hopefully I haven't stepped on any toes by saying that, and you understand where I'm coming from.
So we reached out to the West Sound Cycle Club and met with 3 representatives of the club last week to listen to their thoughts and their priorities regarding the bridge improvements. And then we told them our thoughts and our priorities and our concerns with the project. And I guess where we're at right now, Vicky's, we're moving this forward. To be truthful, the alternative moving forward may, it's likely not going to fully meet a lot of the goals of the cycle club, but we're meeting them as best we can. And I guess, for further discussion, we've got an open house that we're going to be scheduling. We've got a stakeholder meeting with all the stakeholders, including the cycle club, but also the many stakeholders that we have to bring the preferred alternative forward. And one of the things that's been kind of frustrating for us is how the costs on the project have really increased beyond what we had any idea that they would. And so we're having to really focus our improvements on the bridge itself and try to deliver the best bridge improvement forward that we possibly can, with the off-bridge improvements to be delivered, at a later date as separate projects. But I guess to your point, we're doing our level best to listen to all the stakeholders and especially the cycle club, because they, not only are they a significant stakeholder, that they've put a lot of effort into developing alternatives that they think best meet the needs of the city. So we're doing our best to listen on that.
And just to add on a little bit to that, we've set up a separate stakeholder committee meeting for that project to make sure that we are getting input from stakeholders. And And West Sound Cycle Club is a member of that stakeholder committee that we've been meeting with. And so the whole goal of that stakeholder committee meeting is to get advice from those stakeholders on the project and the alternatives. So we're trying our best to get that input. And I think there's some, like Tom said, some disagreements in terms of what the elements of the project that they feel is important. And we did meet last week to discuss and make sure that we're hearing those concerns and addressing them as best as we can. And that's what we're moving forward with the project.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, did you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Shane. Has Jeff Coughlin, who was the council stakeholder representative, been in on these committee meetings?
Yes, he was part of our last stakeholder committee meeting in November, which is the last time we held one. So he was present there.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I thought one interesting aspect of the email from West Sound Cycling Club was the very dramatic change in WashDOT's attitude towards what they required for bridge maintenance. That was agile.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm just making that comment. And I'd also like to say that I get around and about a lot, and many cyclists, especially people who are like zooming into work on the Seattle ferry and then zooming back and don't have time to be on committees, that there's a very widespread attitude that West Sound Cycling Club is kind of carrying the message, not just for District 7, but for cyclists throughout the city. That's been my very strong impression. Yeah, thank you all for this never-ending project. Did anyone have any further questions on Warren Avenue? Alrighty then, moving right along to Katie on Quincy Square, followed by Shane on Safe Routes to School. Please go ahead.
I'll pass it straight to Shane because I think I gave my Quincy Square blurb already.
Alrighty then, preloaded.
Okay, and I don't have an update for you on number 5 safe route, so I'm going to pass it on to Nick Atai to talk about Washington 11th.
This like hot potato for Public Works.
we're keeping it efficient. Trying to get out of here.
Yeah, so I provided an update on Washington 11th. Again, construction phase, looking to bid, go to construction, hopefully this May. So about a 7 to 8 month project.
Yep.
And I guess the biggest thing on that one, just to make sure everybody is aware, is that we're wrapping up the design on it. We're going to be going to advertisement like pretty soon here. So you're going to see construction happening out in Washington this summer. It could be as soon as May timeframe. So that's the thing, is that we're getting down to the point where we're advertising and we're moving forward. So just another quick point is that Nick did also present to the MBA I think on the 9th, and just gave him a quick update. And there is a little bit of concern, I think, that they have with both the East 11th and the Washington projects going simultaneously under construction this summer. So that's something that we're going to, we're trying to address a little bit with Nick's project and see how we can help, with that concern. So.
Are you really going to have to demo the southbound elevated lane?
South of the bridge, going southbound on Washington.
On the West Bremerton side, the southbound lane is elevated going from the bridge south towards the city.
South, yeah, towards 6. No, we're not demoing that upper lane there, but we will have construction limits that happen, where the barrier is, at the intersection of we're pulling out the signal. We will have to do a little bit of pavement work right there to match into the existing at that point. So that's as far south as we're going there.
Okay. Any questions on this, Eric, Michael? Okay, then let us move along, please, to thank you all to the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. Any progress on that? Shane, you've got 4 items coming up, so please just rack through them if you would.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So the RFB project, we are finishing the 30% design milestone this month, so we're just moving along with design. And the goal for that project is we're anticipating construction early next year. So that's what's going on there. No update on the curb ramp and sidewalk repair program. I guess we're still working at completing the East 11th Street sidewalks out in the Minette area. So that's kind of sort of the focus right now. No update on Naval Avenue rechannelization. And on the 6th Street Preservation Phase 3 project, we have a 60% design that we received from the consultant. So that's under review right now. And for that project, that's a project that we're planning on wrapping up this year for construction next year. So that's our focus there on that project. And that's it until Nick. So Anna, do you want to ask questions now, or do you want to just go on to Nick?
I'm just going to ask if Eric, Michael, do you have any questions on any of these? No, I have no questions. It's amazing. It's a wonderful moment in history.
All right. All right. I like it. Okay. All right, Nick.
Nick,
All right,
please go ahead.
5-year trip hazard removal project on sidewalks. So our 2022 contract, we just issued notice to proceed today. They'll be starting work next Monday, about a 30 working day time frame for about 800 sidewalk trip hazards. And we will be putting together a contract first part of this year for the 2023 contract.
Eric, Michael? It must be nice to have sidewalks you can trip on. Oh, Eric, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a real quick question, Nick. I'm confused. We're in January, maximum 60 working days, begin next month. Well, I guess as long as it's not freezing, you can do concrete work. Is that the rationale? What's going on there? Usually we do all this stuff during the summer months.
Yeah, so the work that they're doing, the only weather that they can't work in is snow and ice. So they're rain or shine. They can do the slab lifting and grinding.
Okay.
Yeah, this isn't concrete work. This is grinding and that foam raising of sidewalks to remove hazards.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
This is the process you guys described to council a few weeks ago, specifically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Shane, thank you, Nick. Would you please take your next few items?
Yeah, so the annual pavement markings maintenance project, the contractor, they're getting this work done as weather allows. So that's what's going on with the current scope. And this is one of the 3-year contracts that we have that council approved last year. And so we're in the process of developing the scope of work for next year's work, and we'll be sure to communicate that to the Public Works Committee what we're doing. I think that was a request last year for us to do that. So that's where we stand there. And then the annual pavement preservation project, this is another 3-year contract that council approved last year. And the bulk of this contract was shifted to this year because of the weather work window last year. And we're also in the process of scoping up the work for this year to provide the contractor for this year. And that's another one where council or Public Works Committee asked for an update on what we're doing there as well. So we'll have that on the docket when we get the scoping up and done.
Okay.
So
Eric, Michael? Okay. Thank you very much for remembering that, like, obviously, like, neither the council nor the public should be in on, like, while you're making the sausages. But once you've determined what the scope of work is for the upcoming year and you're disseminating it to the rest of Public Works, we would like to be included on the distribution list. So thank you for thinking of that beforehand. Any of, Tom, did you want to speak up? Okay. Linkety heck. Okay. Bink, bink, bink. Nick, please tell us about View Ridge.
All right, I'll wrap up streets for us. So View Ridge
Okay.
Phase 1, we are wrapping up the RFQ phase with consultant selection. We should have a selection internally by sometime next week, at which point we'll start the negotiation process for the contract. So should be going, towards a contract council in the coming months. Phase 2, which is the section we submitted an application for from Ivy to Rydell. We should find out relatively soon whether or not we were successful. We were a kind of a tier 2 recommendation there, so we're keeping our eyes open for that possible award.
So it's just ticking along.
Just ticking
I'm
along.
sorry.
Yep.
Please go ahead.
Well, I was just
Yep.
going to add on to what Nick said. So when he was talking about the View Ridge Phase 2, for those that don't know, we submitted a grant application through the Safe Routes to Schools program this past year. And they reviewed our project. They interviewed with us, with Vicky and Nick, and they put us on what Nick said was a tier 2 selection, which means that we're not funded as part of that, but we're in consideration for funding. And that list is basically a list that WashDOT puts together, and it gets sent to the legislature for the legislature to approve. So that's what's happening right now. The list was sent to the legislature, and they'll look at it and approve it as part of this legislative session. So that's what Nick was talking about, that we should hear in the next couple of months if they did happen to secure funding for the tier 2 projects. And that would be great, honestly, because that would finish the Elmira up to Riddell Road and be complete with that entire corridor if we did get the funding. So
That's really interesting information, Shane.
all right, thought I'd add that in there.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Eric. Michael, did you have any questions, comments? Oh yeah, Michael, please go ahead.
I was saying no questions, sorry. I've been shaking my head, but I realized my camera was off, so.
Okay. It's really great to know about ways that the state legislature could be of use in these. So thank you very much for explaining what exactly tier 2 is. It's the same tier system that Public Works uses, roughly, more or less. Like tier 1 is stuff that's gonna happen. Tier 2 is something that could reasonably happen. Tier 3 is stuff that's gonna happen when, we win the lottery.
Well, I think it's close, but probably not the same.
Okay, but
I
it's
think-
similar.
Yeah, it's similar. It's we say tier 2 is partially funded, like we don't have a full project funded, and what they say tier 2 is like, hey, if we have the funding, then we'll fund you. So yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, that's
Similar.
helpful. Okay, thank you. All right. Sorry, my mouse is dying. All right, we have finished streets. Yay, transportation planning. Vicky, then Katie, please go ahead.
Thank you. So for the 2024 comprehensive plan update, we're currently out to add right now. We went out on January 10th. We're soliciting for transportation planning consultant firm to help us get through this update. And proposals are due at the end of the month, and then we'll start our evaluation process, and then we will present to Public Works, study session, and council. So I'm excited that we're out on the street, and we're going to get hired, and we're going to get ready to get started on that. Any questions?
Eric, Michael? You're a field operative, aren't you? Okay.
Whatever it takes.
Please carry on. You have 2 more
the 5-year sidewalk plan, and I'll let Shane jump in. He's been helping me. We have some other staff at the city. We started digitizing our sidewalk prioritization list. And so we've started on that, but baby steps. Shane, you got anything to add about this five-year sidewalk prioritization plan?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the only thing I would add, I think that's pertinent is we have a prioritization criteria that we're starting off with that the city of Shoreline actually did a really good job. Ned did some research and saw the city of Shoreline's prioritization criteria. And so what we're doing is we're using that as a basis. And then we went to the Complete Streets Committee in November and just asked them for a little bit of feedback on, what they thought, was good ideas and what they thought we were, missing and that type of thing. And we're going to have another conversation with them the first quarter of this year to kind of sort of solidify some comments from that committee and then utilize that prioritization criteria moving forward in the project list that we have in our comp plan. So that's kind of sort of what we're doing right now. And that's it, Vicki. That's all I had to add.
Okay, thanks. The 5-year pavement management plan, and we're working on that as well. Nick's helping out. We've got a new software package that we're using to evaluate the surface and the stability of our surfaces around the city. And so again, little pieces working together, but not a lot of progress yet on that particular plan.
Y'all done?
I am done. Thank you.
Eric, Michael? Yeah, that means no. Okay. Eric, no? Okay. So do you have a scope of work for what pavement work will be done in 2023? Like, do you have a work plan?
Not that Shane, I'll let you answer. I'm not aware of a 2023 pavement plan at this point in time, but Shane probably is.
Yeah, we've been, so we have a 5-year plan that we have. That was developed from the pavement study that was done in 2017.
I remember it well.
Yes, and I think I may have provided it to you, gosh, I think, a while ago now, but in that plan, what it does is it considers, I think the, several different funding plans for streets and that type of thing. And what it does is it has, I think it's like a $5 million budget figure in there for a 5-year plan. And so we don't have $5 million and we're not spending $5 million on our pavement plan right now. And so what we're doing right now is we're updating that plan with our current budget. And also the costs have changed over the past couple of years as well. So what we're doing is we're updating the costs in that plan. And the idea is basically updating the 5-year plan to help inform the scope of what we are looking at for this year. So we're in the process of working on that. As Vicki said, we just started, I think, like maybe a week or two ago, sinking our arms around that update. So we're in the process. So.
Hey, Tom, just 1 second, please. Yeah, I didn't mean to go all meta on this. I was just really asking, do you have the scope, like what your work plan is for 2023 already?
Belfair Valley Road. I mean, that's the big lift for the street crew this year, is the third phase of Belfair Valley Road. They have
Belfair Valley Road.
Yeah, what they're going to do, they have some significant subgrade repair out there, and then a larger overlay. Belfair Valley Road had degraded to the point that they were having to go out in some places every week and repair potholes. And so after this year's significant effort on Belfair Valley Road, then we'll be at a point right now where there won't be a project out on Belfair Valley Road. They'll just be doing smaller work kind of ongoing in perpetuity. But that's the heavy lift for overlay for 2023 is Belfair Valley Road.
Belfair Valley Road, do you have an average, like how much traffic uses that road?
Oh, geez, Shane. It's truck traffic.
Okay.
I mean,
It's-
it's a lot of traffic and it's truck traffic, which really beats up the road, so.
No kidding. Like,
Yeah,
truck traffic on its way to,
It's yeah, to Belfair. Yeah, so that used to be the original roadway that went over to Belfair. So yeah, there's a lot of truck traffic that there's a lot of tree services and businesses that require truck traffic that travel that back road. So that's primarily what's beating it up right now. And I don't know off the top of my head what the average daily traffic is, but I can look that up and send that to you.
well, I can see that truck traffic, I mean, didn't you guys give us a figure on how much waste management trucks beat up the residential streets in Bremerton? Yeah,
Talked about it. I don't know that we ever really
I think
quantified.
Melinda came up with it.
Could be.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Belfair Valley Road is the big lift for 2023. Okay, great.
With the street crews as an overlay project, right? So.
Uh,
And I'm sorry, I was talking about the pavement preservation work and not the street overlays. So that preservation work is what we're still working on the scope for.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing it when it comes down the pike. Eric, you were raising your hand, or please go ahead.
I have this tendency I should let go, but I'm not going to. So
Ha!
what we need, that's always been the story of my lifeline council. So here's what we need to do this year and well before the budget, and you're the chair, but we need to carve out a time where we can have an in-depth discussion where if we increased our street budget by X amount of people and X amount of dollars in equipment, how much more work can we get done in trying to address this backlog of work that needs to be done on our local streets? So then we can go ahead and council can have the proposal on how we're going to come up with the additional funding. So I saw, and I'm not advocating for this at this point in time. I didn't get to see saw the headline, but didn't get to read the article. I'm not a subscriber, apparently. I used to be on Kitsap Sun. Polls will pass some kind of sales tax. I think you can do 1/10 of 1% councilmatic, and you can go to a larger amount with the vote of the people for additional road funding. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but before you even propose something like that, you need to know what can be done if we increase our resources that we already have. So we need to have that discussion sooner in the year rather than later when it comes down to budget time, and we end up banging our heads saying, oh, there's no money allocated. So if the council makes it a priority, we can tell the administration, I want this in the budget, and then you guys figure out how to balance it out. So we're not fighting in the end. I want to take resources from here to pay for this. So I'm asking that we do this and we get it done.
It would be helpful. I mean, we've got metrics that we can work with and answer questions. It would be helpful to understand what order of magnitude of additional funding we're talking about. If it's $100,000, there's one answer. If it's $500,000, there's another answer. If it's $1 million, it's a completely different answer. So if we could get an idea of what the order of magnitude would be, or several scenarios, and I can work with Dave. And we have been working on that. I mean, we can get you an answer on that, I think relatively quickly. But it's hard. It'd be better to understand really what kind of numbers we're talking about.
I have made this one of my top goals for the retreat because I completely agree with you that the residential streets need love and they routinely don't get it. So we can't give them that love unless we know how much it's going to cost. So if you can give us some ballpark figures, for a few different scenarios, obviously not calculated out to the nearest dime, then we can go about seeing if we can find that money.
Just to be clear, is this just looking at sales tax increase, or is this other sources of funding available?
So at this point, I would suggest don't worry about the funding. That's the council job to come up with the funding. It's tell us the scenario. So Tom, you asked for scenario. 100,000 doesn't do it for me. We all know that it's a drop in the bucket. So let's start with 500,000, $1 million, and $2 million. and tell me what that looks like. And I'm
Probably
sorry.
3 million.
Okay, fine. And then, so
Yeah,
um, anything higher than that's probably not realistic, but
No.
So
even
500,000?
those numbers may not be realistic. So
500,000, 1 million, and 2 million,
and 3 million.
and 3 million.
Yes, please.
So I haven't seen the agenda for the council retreat. The last, what I had seen, I didn't think it had this topic on it, on the agenda. Is this a topic that's being requested? Are you aware?
I've
To be
requested it.
discussed? Okay, I haven't seen the agenda, so,
No, we haven't either.
all right.
Okay, thank you. That would be really, really helpful. Rather than dealing with like abstracts, like we need to spend some money. Be really great to know what we can do. Okay, moving right along. Thank you all very much for that one. Okay, we are in the three topics of Katie, the joint compatibility, West Kitsap Way, and the wayfinding plan. Katie, please take it away.
All right, great. I'll be really quick. OEA joint compatibility transportation study is moving forward. We're kind of in our final finishing touches to the preferred alternative, working through that, and I hope to bring that forward, the preferred alternative forward to you in the next couple of months here for council to approve it. West Kitsap Way planning study is going really well. We just finished our first round of public outreach with a virtual presentation, an online open house, and our first steering committee meeting. All were really successful, and there's materials on all of those on our project webpage if you're curious. And then last but not least is the wayfinding plan. And we are just about ready to wrap up that wayfinding plan and hopefully move towards implementing a first phase of the wayfinding signage sometime this year, this summer, or later this year.
Okay,
That's it for my updates.
thanks. Eric, Michael, any questions? Okay, look forward to seeing more on that. I have a couple of small issues that I'd like to bring up, really just to get the will of Public Works on this one. I've been noticing that since Waste Management had a lot of, they lost a lot of people with COVID, and they're working with a lot of new hires. And, I walk the dog in the alley, there's no litter. Waste Management comes through, there's litter. And I've seen that all over town. I don't know if the rest of you have noticed that, but I'm just saying it's like litter kind of concentrated around garbage cans, and then, as is the way of litter, sort of, floating out. And then Public Works is being asked to pick this up. Is all of this accurate, what I've said so far?
I mean, I'm not managing the waste management contract anymore.
No, gosh, no. No, I'm just,
I'm just thinking in terms of how I see the waste management collection. They seem to me to do a pretty decent job of getting the garbage from the garbage containers into the garbage trucks and not blowing out. That said, we have a litter issue that with this in the city that's getting worse, and I think that it's not from my perspective, I could be wrong, but from my perspective, it's a separate issue from Waste Management managing their collection. The complaints that I've heard from Waste Management are like missed service, and that's been related to, weather issues recently.
Yeah. You mean complaints about waste management, not from them?
That's the complaints on waste management that I've heard are related to, missed service because the streets were unsafe, a couple weeks in a row. That's what I've heard. But as far as waste management doing a poor job of collecting garbage and spreading garbage out on the streets, I've not heard that. I haven't heard that, but I don't, again, Melinda's the one that manages that contract.
Yeah, it's something I noticed when I go around Bremerton, and I was wondering if anyone else has noticed it as well. Just because I have a feeling that something is happening, doesn't mean it is. No, nobody else is noticing it. Okay, then I'm not going to take any further action on this one. Then the final question I had was, I guess that's the whole push behind letting council know about what you're planning to do as soon as possible, as soon as you're letting the rest of Public Works know. Because then that moment when we go, oh my gosh, that is not enough, can come earlier in the year. Or as Eric said, well before budget. So that was really my final comment on that one. Am I making sense? I'm starting to get tired.
I'm not sure.
Like when you put out those maps saying, here's where we're going to stripe, here's where we're going to fix sidewalk gaps, here's where we're going to do chip seal, here's where we're going to do overlay. Usually by the time those get to council, our reaction that, whoa, that's not very much. We would like to do more. It comes so late in the year, so close to budget, that it's tough for us to say, wow, we'd like to allocate more money. Is that making sense?
Yeah, so, so specific to Belfair Valley Road, that's been, we've got a 1 lane mile overlay goal, every year, and that's our 1 lane mile this year. And we've been working on that for 3 years running. And I got to admit, we're, as far as like our 5-year sidewalk plan, our pavement plan, we've been struggling to deliver that. For several years now, and I'm hopeful that when we're able to hire the transportation capital program manager, which council approved, and we're out to add right now, trying to find somebody, that's going to free up staff time to be able to be a little bit more proactive in putting together these plans. But I do have to say, one of the things that, Ned mentioned, difficulty with hiring engineers, utility engineers, and the fact that Bill's all on his own. For utility projects, we've got the same issues with we've had an ongoing problem for several years now with recruiting and retaining engineers. We just have, and so and that's not a Bremerton problem. That's really, either somewhere between a regional and a national problem. I'm not sure where it ends. I really kind of focused on our own problem, but yeah, we've had issues. We've had difficulty, with recruiting and retaining engineering staff. So, and that's resulted in some delays and some mistakes. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Eric, you look like you're about to speak up.
Well, I have a couple of constituent concerns when it's my turn.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, the first one, Tom, I think you were in on the email. There's been continuing emails between one of my constituents and Jeff Elevato and the mayor regarding moving or implementing a gate at the front of NAD Park. Are you familiar with that?
I just heard about that today. And actually, I know Shane brought that up and mentioned it to me. And yeah, if you've got any specific questions for us, I think Shane's probably more in tune with that than I am.
So, well, I know it's not a major project, so I don't expect it to see on this list, but this has been ongoing. I could probably give you a chain that's been going for like 6 months now on promises made about at least 3 months back, the mayor says we're gonna put the gate in, and this is address crime for the rest of the council. This is address crime issues that are allegedly occurring in the park, and I don't doubt it. It should be closed at night. In any case, the latest email said that Public Works is going to be installing it within the next 2-3 weeks, if I remember the email correctly. And I was just wondering who, when, where, what, and when's this going to get done. But if you just saw it, I'm not going to press you on that. But I'm just letting you know, this isn't a new thing. This has been going on for at least 6 months, the complaint from this person. And I would appreciate if it got resolved, and we'll just leave it at that for this meeting.
So your perspective is the gate needs to be moved and it precludes, it eliminates the parking, and it's to address crime. Is that the upshot of it?
Yeah, so I'd like you to talk with the mayor and whatnot. And look at the history of that and what the instructions are, and talk to Jeff in particular, because I'm not the subject matter expert, but right now there is no gate. So, and then the constituent indicated that there's a boulder put in place where you go up that dirt hill where the bunkers are. And before that boulder was there were cars. I saw the cars parked up there doing big hill climb up on the mud, and they're going up there. And there's camping going on there. And not that there's, I don't want to get into that, but there's illicit activity. There's drug activity. It needs to be addressed for hey, look, a lot of people in this neighborhood like to go down there, and not to be sexist or anything, but a lot of women feel vulnerable going down there. And my wife doesn't, she won't go down there by herself anymore. So it needs to be addressed. So I appreciate that. And then the other thing, and this constituent I know very well because it's my wife. And if I don't address this now, because she keeps bugging me, where did you bring this up? She's going to go to her other council person, because right now we're in District 6, so she'll go to Anna. So I better address it. and it has something to do that is actually in District 3, but she observed it actually happening. And then she's talked to some people over at the Navy Museum. They say, yeah, we see it about once a week. And what she's referring to is we have people that are visiting her city are not familiar with her city. And I kind of question it, but I want to bring it up because she has a point, and she's talked to people say, yeah, we see it happen about once a week. So they're going down Pacific. And when you go down Pacific towards the ferries, you have on the far left, the throw lane. And then the middle and the right lane says ferry only. Well, apparently, I know it's marked with a sign, but I'm asking that you look at that and see if we can improve this, because I think there is a safety issue. What's happening is that people that are not used to that are going down that one-way part of Pacific, and then they see, oh, I'm going to go on the ferry, and that's not what I intended. And so what they do is they do a U-turn and they go the wrong way up Pacific. Instead of, you could possibly go across and go off to Washington, but it's not, I don't believe it's marked, this is a thorough street or something. Shane, I'm not a traffic engineer, and maybe you could just confirm what my wife is telling, that this is a problem or whatever. And it's not, for her concern, it's for everybody's concern. We don't want to have an accident. And anecdotally, people are doing U-turns and going up Pacific. So I don't know if that was under your radar, but I'm asking that you look at it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything lately there, but can definitely take a look at it and see what's out there for signage and pavement markings, and see what we can see.
Anything that we could do to improve it, because I get her point. It is off, that sign is way off to the left.
Yeah,
and you're going down that, and all of a sudden it's panic mode. Oh, what do I do? And you go down there, and then you don't know what to do. And yeah,
it's actually kind of awkward taking that right turn because you don't really realize that sign is there until you're almost upon it.
Yeah, especially if you're taking a right turn. If I was going down, that's a good point, because if I'm going down Pacific, I see it on the left-hand side. But if you're taking a right, that would be like, oh, you're stuck in that lane right almost automatically. And then that's the panic. So
yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate that if you look into that.
Okay.
You guys recently put in a blizzard of pedestrian crossing signs. I
Correct.
drove down there this morning and it was just like bam, 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 bam. You would be hard pressed to not know that there are going to be pedestrians crossing there. So I don't know if that's of any use, but now I hadn't realized this was a thing. So I feel we should definitely do what this constituent is looking for.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Michael, did you have any more? I'm gonna go with no. Okay, I don't have the script in front of me, so Eric, please prompt me if I do it incorrectly. But due to the COVID-19,
Oh, yeah, you don't need to do
Meetings
that. You don't
for
need
the
to do that,
future.
but we need to make a decision. I think that's what Tom's raising his hand for. Do you want to continue with this virtual meeting? And my vote, if that's what Tom was asking, is yes. I'd like to do it. I do travel quite a bit. And if we don't, then I may end up missing some meetings. So
well, we don't know what Michael might want. For the winter months, when like cases are rising so high, I would like to continue doing it remotely. And I think, oh, flipping heck, by this time, we've pretty much shaken all the kinks out of Zoom, all the glitches. Everybody has figured out how to unmute themselves. So can we look at this again when we review the capital projects in April? Is that okay by everybody?
it's fine.
Or you want to
Alright.
manage it? We're good either way.
Okay, thank you. I move to adjourn this meeting. Meeting adjourned. Have
Everyone.
a good one, stay dry.
Bye.
Thank you all.